All right, I believe we are about live. Everybody, thank you so much for your patience as I am a couple minutes late here. The first thing I want to say is thank you for being here. Who's grateful to be here? Who's grateful to be here? Can I get an amen, a hand raise, something in the chat right now? Drop where you're coming in from. If you're grateful to be here today, if you're grateful to be a part of the land investing community, of everything going on, of this freaking awesome world that we get to live in. Who is grateful to be here? I want to see in the chat. Gosh, guys, I am, as I'm getting going here, I just want to share. I'm getting over a cold. I'm finally starting to feel like myself. I was telling my wife last night, finally starting to feel like myself, having so much fun about just where we are in the season of life right now. And oh my gosh, I got to go to Colorado and just hang out with some very high quality land investors this past weekend where, we got into what's working in 2025. And honestly, I feel like a lot of people that have been doing this a long time are crushing it right now, like crushing it. But we're having the best year we've ever had. And people are saying it's been a really tough market. And so anyways, I just want to see who is grateful to be here. I'm going to take a quick picture so I can post this on social so people know we are live right now. Today we are talking about negotiation. All right, I've been teasing this for a super long time now. I've got a fun deliverable I've been working on. I'm going to make some tweaks here in real time, but I'm going to snap a quick pic. And I want to know who is grateful to be here. All right. I am getting this posted right now, but who is here live with us? I want to see. Let's see. Again, while I'm getting going on that, such a good time out in Colorado. It was absolutely gorgeous for folks that were there. It was just an awesome, intimate little event where we really got to see what's working in 2025, who's moving and shaking. And honestly, just here's some interesting strategies. My buddy John Jasniak was dropping some really good stuff on what subdivides are doing, in 2025, what that stuff's looking like. Sumner Healy presented. That guy he's an absolute wizard. Dude is super sharp. So always love getting to hear his presentations and see him in person. Got to spend some quality time with him and his girlfriend Sarah up in Bali, down in Bali. I don't know if it's up, down, east, west. I guess technically it would be east, right? But that was amazing. So anyways, guys, if you're here live with us, I just want to see you being here. I'm going to break down my negotiation process. Fun announcement upcoming too. Anybody that's in our free school in Land Closers Academy knows the script in there. That's my version 3, right? I released that one back in December. I am soon to come out with a version 4 because of a lot of what I'm going to show you here today. I don't have a lot of negotiation process embedded in it. I don't have all the reverse objections that I teach inside of our private group every single Monday. And I want to start building it into the script. So stay tuned for version 4 of my script coming out here soon so that you can close like a pro. Okay, who wants to close like a pro? Let me know in the chat. All right. Again, not seeing anybody commenting just yet. I'm going to move this window over here. Huge benefit of having 3 different screens. But with that, excited with whoever's here live with us right now. If you're catching us on the replay still, go ahead, drop a chat. Would love to know who is in here live with us. Now, with that, guys, let's dive into negotiation process. What do you say? Who wants to learn how to negotiate like a pro? All right. So I'm going to go ahead and present on a Word doc, guys. It's one of my favorite ways to teach. I'm going to talk through high level what we're going to be doing and then go into some real scripting. Honestly, if enough people watch this and comment, maybe I'll give away this doc. I usually just like to keep it to our inner circle members, but if enough people comment that they want it, I'll consider sharing it. I'll have Jacob on my team reach out to you guys with it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for this training doc. Boom. Okay. I'm seeing you are looking at the training doc here. All right. So guys, we're going to be talking negotiations. Today is July 2nd, 2025. High level, what this is going to look like is I want to pay attention to the sequencing here. This stuff is really important. Okay. So I want to pay attention to the sequencing of how we lay out our questions, how we build our assumptions, how we have this conversation. High level, let's go through a couple of topics that's super important to everybody. All right. The first one is that the price is the one piece of information that our sellers want from us. So we can't just like give it up right away, right? I always like to say our price is our power. So we got to be really, really careful when we do our price drop, how we do that. And then I want to go over two different tactics that are super important for negotiations. All right. One of them is looping, which is basically just trying to get the seller to admit if they take less than what they're asking for. Another tactic is tiedowns. That's what it actually sounds like to isolate objections. Okay. So this is some deep in the weeds, some sales training. Normally we don't get too deep into this stuff until you're in my inner circle, in the Monday calls, and I'm actually reviewing your calls, giving you and your team feedback so that we can close deals like a deal machine. All right. Who wants to be a deal machine in 2025? Let me know in the chat. All right. So this stuff, first and foremost, this is not going to be new information if you guys have been following me for a while. The first piece is before we go into price, before we do anything, you need to make sure you eliminate objections, okay? So we got to complete all our objection eliminators, right? I always actually, just real quick too, because I wrote it out here, baking a cake, shout out Jenny up top. The sequencing of all this stuff really starts to matter. My old sales trainer and mentor, Jenny Hudspeth, she always said it was like baking a cake, right? Keith wants to be a deal machine. Let's go, Keith. I want you to be a deal machine too, my friend. If you're baking a cake, right, and I asked you to crack a couple of eggs, throw some flour in there, throw it in an oven, take it out, add some vanilla extract, right, add a little bit of whatever else goes in a cake, maybe some leavening agents, right, some yeast. Probably not going to be a very good cake, right? If I took a spoonful to it, it would taste like poo-poo, okay? So I don't like eating poo-poo cakes. I like eating tasty cakes. Sales is the same thing. If you ask questions out of order, you're going to get poo-poo, all right? So we're here to make money. We're here to close deals. We're here to take care of our families. We're here to build legacies. We are not here to make poo-poo, all right? And I'm sorry, I'll stop saying poo-poo now, but I can't help it sometimes. I am still a 12-year-old boy at heart. Sorry, you're here. With that, the sequencing in our sales matters just like baking a cake, all right? And so the first thing we need to do before we get into price, before we get into the actual piece of negotiations, is eliminate our potential objections. Now, if you've been through my training before, you know there's 4 types of objections, all right? And I have them listed out here. We got partner, spouse, we got timing, we got certainty, and we got price, all right? So the way I like doing that is really it's going to be partner, spouse, and timing are going to be your straightforward questions before we get into price. Okay, so that's something to the effect of like, hey man, if we were to come to an agreement today, is there anybody else who needs to sign off on this? Or, if we were to come to an agreement today, is there anything preventing you from selling in the next 90 days? I've got a couple of different samples in here. All right, I'm blitzing through this quick to get into the real meat of negotiations for those that are live here. Next, we've got certainty. All right, certainty, which really is you need to be building authority. Okay, I always say you build good authority through rapport, through asking good questions, by making it sound like you know what you're talking about. Right? Talk through past experiences on your team. We've got scripting for that in the big script. All right, but right now I'm just going to speak it at a high level so we can really get into the negotiation meat today. And next is don't talk price until you're making your offer. They're asking price first, ideally, but we shouldn't talk price. All right. We're also going to talk about how we shift blame and give out ranges for our pricing. All right. So those are a couple pieces we're going to be focused on here. But again, appreciate you guys that are live with us. With that, again, let's dive into what it actually looks like to start our negotiations. So the summary here is like after we've asked these questions, after we've been through objection eliminators, let's get our asking price from our seller. You might do this before all these questions, right? It really just depends how it comes up. But high level, I want you to understand that it is absolutely necessary that we get an asking price before they give us one. It just gives us power, right? We have something to negotiate off of if we do it first. Whereas like I'm working from backwards if I don't have it right away. All right. So I got to get mine first. I also want to tell you guys like a big concept that I want you to understand is you got to be okay asking for sales multiple times. You'll see that both when we're negotiating and then again also when we are getting an asking price. Getting an asking price is asking for a sale. I see the best investors are typically asking between 2 and 5 times before a seller actually gives this to us. So don't be discouraged if a seller tells you no. Just know that's part of it, okay? And so big piece there. Next, we've got our leading questions, right? So that's a lot of times we want to ask them questions that lead them to answers naturally instead of just asking for them point blank. You'll see what that looks like here in a second. When sellers won't give us numbers or are super stubborn, it's a perfect use case for shifting blame and us doing a ranged offer on our first offer. Okay, so also just high level, make them think we're on the same team. We'll show you what that sounds like early on. So questions before objection eliminator or before pitch. Okay, so you can insert this section either before the series of questions I just went over or after, right before your pitch essentially. Here's what that sounds like, right? How I like to get an asking price out of sellers is I like to call back to the fact that a lot of these investors, or excuse me, these sellers are telling us that they're getting other calls from investors, right? So they're saying, hey, I'm getting phone calls and text messages and letters all the time. And so it helps us to start with a question like, hey, man, I know we're the ones that reached out to you, okay? But can I ask, before we reached out, did you ever consider selling the property? Now, I will note if you're international, for some reason that reached out twice in your verbiage really doesn't work well. If you're from the Philippines or Egypt, sometimes that verbiage changes. So you can tweak this to like called. Hey, I know we called you, but before we called, do you ever consider selling the property? Right? Instead of me asking, hey, why do you want to sell? Right? If I ask, why do you want to sell your property? What's your motivation? Why do you want to sell? A lot of times what you're going to get is you're going to get people who they're like, hey, I never said I wanted to sell. You guys called me. So this question is us getting ahead of it. I call this a reverse objection in my training. That's where I know I'm going to get friction from a seller and I just say the thing first. So instead of them saying, hey, you called me, I'm like, hey, I know we're the ones that called you, but can I ask before we called, did you have any interest in selling your property? Had you considered in selling your property before, right? From there, it sounds like you're getting other calls on this property. Has anyone ever made you a real offer? Right? Hey, why haven't you taken any of them? Right? They were all too low. They were trying to rip me off, right? Pennies on the dollar, all that stuff. Okay. Next up, I'm gonna say stuff like, okay, got it. So it sounds like you guys do have a price in mind if you're turning folks down. I mean, do you mind me asking, what was that price you had in mind for it? Right? And if they're like, well, you say first, I'm like, hey man, I totally understand we're the ones that called you. But my job is to fight to get you the best offer possible. My job is to fight for you to get an offer you like, right? And so realistically, like what would it take for us to work together, right? And this is where I start chopping up some level of, hey, I want them to feel like we're working together, not against each other, okay? Is this making sense so far? I'm going to pop into the comments. If this is making sense for the 10 of you that are live, will you just drop like a yes in the chat? Drop your questions throughout. I just want to make sure this is following. So I'm a big teach off Word doc guy. This is what works really well for me. I just want to make sure this is hitting, because if it isn't, I'm going to go rejig this and I'll share a different deliverable. If it is, if enough people want it, I'll go ahead and give this script out. Next piece here is, hey, we've got the asking price. So what are we doing next? Right? And we're going to go ahead and start looping or start doing some tie downs. Okay. So I'll define those here in a second, but essentially here's some examples. We'll get more into these in a second, but here's an example of a tie down basically. So like, hey man, if we were, and let me actually just, if we were able to get you asking price, hey man, if I was able to get you 85, oh, excuse me, this is motivation. This is motivation. So like I said, guys, this is a rough draft in the sense of, I want to make sure I got something good to you because so many people have been asking for it. And this forces me to get it to you ASAP Rocky. All right. So examples of asking for motivation. Hey man, if I was able to get you that $85,000, I mean, what would that do for you and your family? Right? Hey man, would I be overstepping? So this is like a permission-based questioning type thing, right? Where I'm overdoing it. It's Chris Voss style. Would I be overstepping if I asked, what would that $85,000 do for you and your family? Okay. If we were able to get you $85,000, how would you celebrate? Okay. So it's like a non-invasive way of like, what would you do with the money? Right? Hey, do you have anything fun planned if we were able to get you 85 grand, or would you just kind of invest it, put it in savings, buy another property? Sometimes people like to correct. So, you can play with a couple different versions of this, but here's what it sounds like to actually ask for motivation. I want to figure out, why do they want the money? What are they going to do with the money? Because that'll help me later on in negotiations. Okay. So, next, I'm going to begin my looping process. Okay. Looping process. This is just a quick example. I'll show you guys more in depth on that in a second. Okay, got it. I mean, hey, can I ask, would you even be open to offers below 85,000? No, that's my rock bottom. Okay, understood. So if we come back in below 85,000, like it's not even worth calling you back. All right. I call this looping because I'm basically just like going back in a circle, right? Where it's like, hey man, I'm just going to ask again, can I offer you less money? Is basically your question without you saying, can I offer you less money? Okay. Now let's get into tie downs real quick. All right. So with tie downs, the definition of a tie down is essentially what it actually sounds like to isolate an objection. Okay. So they sound like, hey man, aside from insert objection, would there be anything stopping us from working together? You'll notice if I go way back up, that's basically what we're trying to do is prevent it before we talk price. Okay. So when we get to price, we'll talk about how we use that tie down to isolate it, right? But back up here, it's essentially aside from insert objection, would there be anything preventing us or stopping us from working together? Okay. So an example of that. So aside from the price, would there be anything preventing us from working together? Okay. More examples. Hey man, so if we were able to agree to price and terms, would there be anything stopping us from working together? Hey, just so I understand, if we were able to get you asking price, this should be in brackets, not quotes. Would there be anything stopping us from working together? Right? Understood. So assuming I can convince the team, see, this is that work together verbiage. Assuming I could convince the team to get an offer of, $85,000, would there be any reason preventing us from being able to work together? So I gotta isolate the objection so that I know there's not any other reason they would tell me no later. That's the whole piece of isolating an objection. You isolate, you hear it all the time, you isolate the objection and then overcome it. This is what it sounds like to isolate an objection. Okay, we're gonna have to play with what it sounds like to overcome one. I don't have a ton of that flushed out in verbiage yet, but I'm gonna build some of it in real time for you guys. Okay, so looping. All right, here's some more stuff on looping. It's basically asking the seller if they'd be willing to take less than their asking price. All right, so hey man, just so I understand, would you even be open to offers below asking price? And just so I understand, if we were able to come in below $85,000, is that something you'd even consider? Right, those are round 1 and round 2. Round 3 is basically what I mentioned earlier, which I'm even going to copy and paste down here so we've got it, which is basically like after they say no to this, we would insert, we would insert this verbiage essentially. Now, the goal with the first question of looping is to subconsciously get our seller to be prepared for when an offer comes in lower than their asking price. Right? Because right now they've got this number stuck in their head and they're like, well, yeah, I'd consider it, or I'd be open to it, or what's your offer? They're gonna ask a question, right? But in the least, they're mentally prepped for you to present a number that is lower. My goal with this phrasing is not to just get them to give me money. Now, sometimes they do. You'd be shocked to be like, oh, like, great. Like what would you take? What's the lowest you would consider, right? And you can ask that, right? So if they hit you with a yes here, if yes, like, then I might say like, okay, got it. Can I ask what the lowest you would, like, what's the lowest you would consider to sell your property? I'd say the property. I never want to assume identity with your, right? So, okay, got it. Can I ask, like, what's the lowest you would consider to sell a property, right? And so when they're prepared, and now they're going to be like, okay, got it. Like, they're going to say, hey, okay, I'd take 80. I'm like, okay, and just so I understand, if we come in below 80, I mean, you wouldn't even consider it. So I'm going to do it again. That's why it's called looping. I'm going to keep playing it until I hit the actual rock bottom. If you've listened to me on some of these calls, I'll loop 2, 3, 4, 5 times on some sellers until they basically get mad at me. And then I'm like, okay, got it. Okay. And then the first offer is where it should be a ranged offer. So this is exactly what we've gotten into before. Now, guys, if you did this all right before the pitch, this is where in the script your pitch would go, right? And so I'm going to copy and paste the script and transition to offer from another script and just put it in here, right? But that's just like, I'll ask a leading question here, right? So this is a leading question of like, hey, did Jacob explain how our company works and what our process is, or should I break that down here? And they're usually gonna be like, no, go ahead, or whatever. I'm like, okay, got it. Well, at Assets for Acres, we pride ourselves in customer service, blah, blah, blah. That's the stuff where it's like, you should work with me, 0 closing cost, I'm awesome, blah, blah. And then we actually transition into our offer, okay? So this is our first offer, right? Which is also a ranged offer, because our first offer should be insulting, to be quite frank, right? Hey, so for 10-acre tracts, closing in 90 days. Now, again, you can seed that, you cannot. Really helpful in double closings if you can just go ahead and seed some longer timelines. We're seeing investors are usually paying around, 30 to 45 grand. What would you say to one of those investors if they made an offer like that to you? Right? What would you even say if they made an offer like that? But shifting blame allows us to go for a double close pitch if we need to, or negotiate based on other people. Oh, I'm not saying that's our offer. I'm just saying that's what I'm seeing other investors are paying. But the biggest thing we're looking for here is feedback. Okay, looking for feedback from our sellers, right? Hey, so it does look like our offer is closer to, maybe it's the higher amount, right? What do you think about that? Shut up, let them speak first. All right. Now, this is where I don't have a ton of scripting built out for here yet, guys, but I want you to think through if somebody's still at a no, I wouldn't consider that, right? We either got to play with an asking price or call back asking price. So if we don't have their asking price, get it out of them here. Assuming we do, loop. All right. So again, it's some level of, okay, just so I understand. I mean, if we come back in and we're under that 85,000 you're wanting, like it's not even worth it for me to give you a call back. No, it's not. Okay. Right. Versus like, yeah, you can call me back. I'm like, okay, well, realistically, like what's the lowest you think you would take? Again, I'd come back up to the looping section of the script, play with these 4 or 5 questions here. All right. And you're just going to keep playing. Now, this is where we've got to be super mindful of our negotiation process where, if they say no after our first no, essentially, ideally you've got some margin, right? So you want to loop them off of their asking price, right? So ideally we have some margin here. But before I come in with my second firm offer, I want to loop them as low as possible, okay? I want to loop them in as low as possible, right? And then after that, right, that's where we like start playing the game of they come in lower, right? And then we insert our second offer, highest flip, or entering double close. If we do double close, we've got to come in with a double close pitch. I've got that in the big script, right? But this is where, if we get to a number, that we can agree to, like tie down and close, all right? So this is essentially where it's like, okay, I would do 75,000. I'm like, okay, just so I understand, if I can get the team to agree to 75,000, if I can get you an offer for $75,000, would there be anything preventing us from doing this deal or working together? No, not at all. Great. Now we go in and we close the deal, right? Okay, great. The good news is it does look like we can go ahead and approve that. Our next steps are blah, 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 right? So approval, next steps, get PA signed. All right. So guys, I'm going to go ahead and build out some more scripting for this section right here so you understand it. Right now, this document's a little bit choppy, but I really wanted to show you guys just like what the negotiation looks like. It's a little bit of a preview of what V4 is going to be looking like for the scripting, right? So we're going to come out with a version 4 here soon where I've got more negotiation track in here. I'm going to be playing with the objections a little bit. We're going to revamp some of the double close language, but I need it to flow a little bit smoother. All right. So I'm not 100% sure if I want to share this doc as soon as I finish it with everybody or not. I might not. It'll go in my script eventually. My community always gets, first dibs on this stuff as it's being put out. But I wanted to keep this training short today. I know I've been doing a lot of longer interviews lately. Keith said he loves this. Looping is real good. Thanks, Keith. Jason said, seems like there should be some gaps between loops. Man, it just depends. I'll tell you, I might loop 3 different times, Jason, in one call. It really just depends how it's playing out. It really just depends how the conversation goes. And that's the thing about these things is it's fluid, right? And that's a big piece I'm trying to show everybody here with these conversations is like, hey, I want you guys to understand, like, here are the 5 or 6 pieces that matter when it comes to negotiations. I need you to eliminate objections on the front end. I need your first offer to be shifting blame and present a range so I can get feedback. And then I need you to have tie downs and looping in your tool belt so when they come in handy, you can whip them out and play with them. It's not always going to go the exact same way. I can give you samples of conversations, but the reality is they sound a little bit different. By the time we get a yes, we need to tie it down. We need to get a PA out. We need to get it signed live. All right. So that's a good preview on this. Do I have any questions on that? I'm going to try to look at the chat here for any questions right now while I'm on live. if you guys want this, if you're watching this on the replay, if you're watching this on YouTube and you want this, if I get enough people just comment negotiation script, I'll have Jacob on my team reach out and get a version of this to you. I need to finish out that back end just a little bit. But if I get enough people, if I get 10 or 15 solid people who say they want the negotiation script, I'm happy to go ahead and send out a version of it. And then we'll revamp V4 here in the next probably 30, 45 days, where we'll get you guys some really good scripting for everything else. I'm not seeing any questions right now, but if you are here live with us, the last thing I'll say is we're doing a promo this week for anybody that signs up for the Land Scaling Summit. That is September 19th and 20th here in Dallas. I think the code is freedom. Kaylee, feel free to correct me, comment in the comments here what the code is, but I think the code is freedom for $200 off. So if you're trying to come to the Land Scaling Summit, we do have some tickets left, but comment and by the end of the week, hopefully you secure some tickets. I know we still got some left. So if I don't see you then, I'll miss you guys. But guys, let's go crush it. Let's have a great week. Let's close some freaking deals. And if you want the script, go ahead and just comment negotiation script. And if enough people do, I will, holler at you. But thanks so much, guys. Bye-bye.